welcome back to
the Zak
and Buzz
Review.
So, we went to the cinema and watched
The Watched. Yes, we watched The Watched. Say that again. We watched
The Watched.
Well, what do you think?
Okay, so I actually thought it was pretty good, actually.
I did too.
I wasn't... I've kind of been disheartened by previous horror films we've seen at the cinema, especially like Tarot and things like that. Yeah. They've kind of been a bit kind of...
First Exorcist.
Was
it called The First
Omen?
The First Omen.
That's it.
Not The First Exorcist.
There's a couple of exorcism films coming out that look a bit ropey.
Yes.
But The Watched actually proved to be pretty good.
Now, I will say, and this isn't a downer on it, it immediately gave me the feeling of The Hallows. Because we're back in Ireland, and we're back in an ancient forest, and there's something supernatural, some kind of supernatural being is happening. And so that was, okay, if you've seen The Hallows, you couldn't help but kind of think, this feels a bit The Hallows.
Well, with that, it's kind of like, the fairies are kind of zombies.
No, they
but it's the cordyceps virus, isn't it? It's
a fungal virus.
Yeah, that makes them kind of fairy people.
But
that is the big thing.
But these are
actual
fairies that have been banished by humans into the bowels of the earth and sealed in, and then they have clawed their way to the surface in this ancient and magical wood, but they can't escape the wood. That didn't ever really get explained, why the fairies can't get out of the wood.
Yeah.
But in doing so, they have lost their wings. They've just got raggedy... wings on the backs.
They were probably, obviously, massive spoilers in this review.
Yeah,
There's a professor that's created this kind of research station.
Well, okay, let's go back a little bit. The main character of the story is on a mission. She works at an antique store kind of thing, and she's pet store,
yeah.
And she takes this parrot to somewhere else, Galway or somewhere anyway, and she gets lost.
To go through the forest.
She kind of gets lost or takes the wrong turn or whatever, and ends up on the track into the forest, and then
loses the car.
The car conks out because it gets into the heart of this magical forest where no electronics work.
A seemingly endless forest.
Yeah, and then she gets lost, and then she finds this old lady who says, "Quick, get into this box."
Yeah, we got 5 seconds.
Yeah, it's got like this big concrete bunker with a glass front, and that's where
the watch
these things come and watch them for entertainment purposes.
That and to replicate them because they're changeling.
They're like changing. They try and
replicate to perfect that kind of
the ability to change and to mimic.
Yeah.
And of course,
which is a creepy concept.
And then we learn that there's this box there, but we don't know who's built it, why it's there.
Yeah.
And then we find that there's like a circular boundary, which I think, like you said, goes up to like, it's got marker posts that go up to like 130 plus or something marker posts, and when you get to a marker post,
point of no return,
they are all like called the point of no return. So if you go past that point, you will not have enough time before sunset to get back to the safety of the bunker. Yeah. So you kind of, anybody that gets there into the bunker is then stuck because you just can't get out of the edge of the forest before sunset.
And if you're outside, you're going to get killed.
Yeah. So, however, this threw up, while I'm watching this threw up, of course, thing. How on earth did this thing get built? How could we have this just random box with a glass screen? Yeah. Thankfully, this film does something that a lot of films don't do, and actually explains enough it explains enough on the way through the film to say, this is why it's there, because you mentioned earlier it was actually built by a professor who was observing. He discovered the fairies and then had this thing built. And then you think, hang on a minute, if you can't get out and into the forest because you're going to get killed, how did they get it built? And it actually did explain briefly how he managed to, using teams of people, which he sacrificed, basically, they built it. And so I thought that was good, because when it had something in it that needed... You can't say, we just got to accept that that's that. Yeah. They actually did explain it. Yeah. Okay, so that was good. And it was quite fun, the whole concept of the ancient fairies.
Obviously, for kind of like the first half, it's very much the dynamic between the survivors is kind of tested and challenged, and people do things they're not supposed to do, and people get
you got
angry with each other.
The friction,
which basically results in this this room kind of being attacked.
Well, what was the character? I can't remember the character's name, the main character. But she was determined she was going to get
to escape. Yes.
You know, and
but that leads to the fairies kind of almost breaking in and kind of killing them all.
Yeah.
But that's when they find.
They push a table to block the door,
yeah.
and the table flips the carpet, and they've never noticed there's a panel in the floor.
Yes.
And under the panel is a bunker
full of food and things.
And they go down there, and because the other thing is this bunker has got electric lighting.
Yep.
And we are told that no electrics or electronics don't work.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this was one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on a minute. The car conks out. Things don't work that are electronic, but they're in a bunker and it's got lights. And they've got a TV and a DVD,
computer,
DVD and a very old computer. They've got things that don't, and that shouldn't work. But then it's explained because the professor has worked out a way of dealing with that in the bunker.
Yeah.
So again, it was one of those things that was nagging me while watching it. Why have they got electric lights if electric doesn't work? But it was explained. So huzzah! So they find the bunker and all this.
So they find his video log of kind of his studying of these creatures,
which was kind of a bit like watching the videotapes in The Thing. Yeah, where they go to the Swedish base and they get the videotapes and then they're watching through to see what's going on. And so that gives you a lot of information.
And we find that he had captured one to kind of study it, but then they skip to the end and find out that he has gone to then kill that thing and himself for what he's done.
Yeah, I think he seems to have like a guilt trip.
Yeah,
because he's obviously caused the death of all the people that helped him build the place, and he has persuaded. He lost his wife as well, and then he persuades this particular changeling to change into his wife, and that's the image that this fairy then portrays itself as. There you go.
Because it actually turns out that this one is actually a halfling, which has been shunned by the fairies themselves.
Yeah, the fairies don't like the halflings because they're half human, half fairy.
And it's kind of explained within the lore and the mythos of the fairies,
again,
which is quite cool.
It's explained.
And it turns out that the halfling that can walk in daylight, the half
they can
fairy,
walk in daylight, and they can mimic better as well.
Is the old woman who is pretending to be the guy's wife.
And there's kind of clues to that because, at one point when the fairies are trying to smash the glass, she jumps in front of everybody and puts her arms out like in a protective stance to say, I'm protecting these humans from you. And you kind of like feel that, hang on a minute, hang on.
So they discover through these logs that there is actually an escape route. That's how this place got built.
Yes, he says you must go to the point of no return
it's
number
like,
blah, blah
blah blah,
and then
there's a boat.
And you will be able to get out of the forest.
So that's what they said about doing.
They do.
They go on their kind of escape.
It doesn't go perfectly
Doesn't go perfectly, but they get to the boat. A couple of them escape, including the halfling lady person, which we haven't actually discovered yet.
They don't know that. Because the professor asks them if they manage to escape, whoever was watching this, if you escape, go back to my college, go back to my study where all my stuff is, all the information, research, the data I've gathered, and destroy it. Nobody should know about this. Nobody else should lose their lives over it. Destroy it. And bizarrely enough, and again they explain that
I
away,
honestly thought the film was going to end as soon as they sailed off on the boat.
Yeah,
but it didn't.
You had to ask the question: what really motivated the main character to want to bother to go to the college / university and chase it up? Because there really wasn't any need for her to do that.
Well, maybe it was to find out some unanswered questions.
Maybe,
but it was in her doing that she discovered that the reason the professor went there was to get a changeling to pretend to be his wife.
He missed his wife.
Which we then discover is the old woman we've been seeing for the entire movie.
And then she realises she's actually let one out of the forest.
Yes.
Which technically the old lady could have done anyway. Oh no, technically she couldn't, because she said that if she went out, the fairies would kill her because they don't like her. Because she's a halfling. And she didn't know the escape route. She? But then she's out, so now she's out, and she's like, and then for some reason she felt that the main character felt that she then wanted to put her back in the forest.
Yeah.
And so it got a little bit grey there.
Yeah, well, basically, because the halfling lady then discovered that they knew that she was a halfling, she then went about to kill the other survivors because they knew too much. But then, subsequently, she was persuaded by the main character to not kill them and just go on.
Go. You might find some other people like you in the world.
Yeah.
And then she spends the end of the movie as a ginger-haired girl, kind of following her around.
Well, that is the changeling.
Yeah, following her around. Yeah. And it was actually represented earlier on.
And it's kind of like,
you see. So actually, overall, it was well written, well performed, well presented. Well
I thought the actual fairies were actually pretty
you didn't
creepy.
You didn't see too much of them, but you saw enough, and I did like the sound.
Yeah,
that was the creepiest thing, was the sound.
Yeah.
And then when they ramped it up, when they were trying to smash their way in, it was kind of like, that was like, whoa, but
it was a great cinema experience.
It wasn't a horror movie for me. It was a thriller kind of. I don't know. I wouldn't call it a horror movie.
Well, I think it's pretty hard.
Supernatural,
suspense, psychological horror, maybe.
I don't know. It wasn't too.
It's hard. It's very hard.
There was nothing really horrible about it, was there?
It's hard to scare us. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it wasn't really horrible. Yeah.
But I imagine that there's probably a few people out there that would actually find it very scary.
I think they'd find the jump scares in it. Inevitably there are jump scares. They might find those sort of scary things.
So for that, we would probably recommend it.
Yeah.
Because it's obviously done by the daughter of M. Night Shyamalan, and from the movies I've seen of his, they can either be a bit hit or miss. Haven't seen them all. I would like to. It'd be great, because I think. And you're a fan of The Sixth Sense?
Well, The Sixth Sense was because I was one of the lucky people that actually got to watch the movie and hadn't had the twist spoilt. So if you haven't seen The Sixth Sense, I'm not going to spoil it. But it made total sense when the twist was revealed, and you went, "Why didn't I see this? This is brilliant! What a brilliant piece of writing."
Yeah.
If you already knew that, you're just watching the whole movie and going, "Okay, I already know what the twist is," and that would have been lost on you. But there you go.
So overall, perhaps we should rate this out of 10. Should we go for it's a Disney Tinkerbell fairy, or is it like, I don't know, Mothra fairies?
Well, it wasn't something that made me sort of take in sharp, or anything like that, whoa, or anything like that. I think, there were.
I enjoyed it. It was enjoyable. I wanted to see what happened.
It
kept you on the edge.
They fleshed the story out and filled in the gaps that could have been big kind of plot holes in it.
Exactly.
I'm going to be really, really nerdy here, but the only plot hole, if you want to call it that, for me, was the fact that they kept going on about this very ancient, magical forest where the fairies were that they couldn't leave, but they were in a forest which was full of spruce trees that are all planted in exact lines. And you know that it's
that is nitpicky.
It's a logging forest.
That is nitpicky.
This is not an ancient forest. They're going to cut those down for making furniture and building. This is where it's filled.
It's a magical forest, okay?
Okay, so it wasn't. It just. The
thing I'm going to ask: how the heck did they get that giant mirror all the way there? If they can't even.
Well, the glass.
The two-way mirror, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe some things don't need to be explained. But there you go.
Magic.
It's fairy magic. Anyway, The Fade.
Where are you going? Is it 10 or is it 1?
For me, I really did enjoy this. Out of the horror movies that we've reviewed recently, we've had Sting, we've had Abigail and things like that.
Tarot.
I think this landed a good solid 8.
Solid 8.
Yeah, it wasn't scary,
but it was good.
But it was good.
You know what? I'm going to level with you. I'm going to go 8 as well because I really did enjoy it and I would recommend it.
I'm going to say this. Okay, I invited my mother to it, and my mother's 88, and she said, "I don't want to go and see a horror movie. No, thank you."
Yeah.
And I didn't know what this movie was about, but my mother, bless her, she loves fairies and all that kind of stuff. And now I've seen the movie, I actually think she would have liked it because it was sort of jump scares in places, but it was because it was a story about ancient fae folk in a forest in Ireland, and it had the folklore. And so I actually think it would have appealed to her to have watched it.
Exactly.
So there you go.
And there we are.
And that's our review.
If you enjoyed this review, please like and subscribe to this channel and comment below any suggestions of further reviews you'd like to see.
See you in the next one.